we will control the vertical.
Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today I'm talking about a series that was more for children. I think pretty strongly for children. It's called Tall Tales and Legends, also called Shelley Duvall's Tall Tales and Legends, because it was created and produced by Shelley Duvall. And it followed she also worked with someone called Fred Fuchs, and it follows her success with another anthology series called Fairy Tale Theatre. She developed these 9 episodes were done in all in one season, and there was a follow-up series which I will come to as well. And essentially, there were American tales. Americana was strongly front and centre. I believe it was shown on Disney Showtime. It was clearly for children. It was an interesting series. It aired between September 25th, 1985 and January the 2nd, 1987. So it was sporadic, I believe. For example, the first one was shown, the one we're discussing tonight was shown on September 25th. The next one was December. Next one was, there was a few in January and some in February. Then there was a break, and then some in October, November, December, January. So it's spread just about over 2 years. They were roughly an hour each, a bit less than an hour, just a tiny bit. Presumably with ads, they would stretch to an hour. And as I say, they were concerned with tales of Americana. First one, the one I'm going to be discussing is The Legends of Sleepy Hollow, and there were other example ones were Annie Oakley, Pecos Bill, Darling Clementine, Johnny Appleseed, Ponce de Leon and his search for the Fountain of Youth, John Henry and Davy Crockett. So yeah, strongly American, and it's quite an impressive cast, I have to say. I won't talk about the ones in this one until I get to this one, but in other episodes, for example, Jamie Lee Curtis played Annie Oakley, Brian Dennehy was Buffalo Bill, Steve Guttenberg played Pecos Bill, Elliot Gould played someone called Casey Frank in one, Shelley Duvall featured in one, Martin Short was Johnny Appleseed, Michael Ute was Ponce de Leon, and his one was really unusual. He starred with Sally Kellerman and Dr. Ruth Westheimer, of all people, and Danny Glover played John Henry, which sounds pretty good actually, and so on. However, the one tonight is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Now, this had Ed Begley Jr. as Ichabod Crane, Beverly D'Angelo as Katrina Von Tassel, Charles Durning as the narrator and then an uncle of Katrina, and Tim Thomerson as Bron Bones. Tim Thomerson he's in a lot of genre movies. He's the lead, for example, in Trancers, which is one of my favourite kind of B movies. But he also pops up in stuff like Near Dark, things like that. He's a pretty good actor, and he plays Bron Bones. And essentially, it's the story of the very skittish and scared Ichabod Crane, who's terrified of everything, it would appear, versus Bron Bones, a big manly man, for the affections of Katrina Von Tassel. And Beverly D'Angelo is pretty good in this, but it is played that she's not that interested in Ichabod. She's more interested in Bron Bones, but she wants to make him jealous. That's kind of it is. Now, there's a few problems with this. I mean, it was for kids, and you have to remember that. It looked like it was made on videotape rather than film, and this gives it a very amateurish look and feel. It's just unfortunate that's what happens with videotape from this era, which is a shame. And it's played very broad, but then it's a kids thing, right? So it gives it a slightly amateur feel, but the actors kind of pull it through. Actually, they're pretty decent. Ed Begley Jr. is a little problematic. Not that he isn't a good actor, because he is, but he's a bit too big and strong for an Ichabod. We need a skinny little dude to be Ichabod Crane. That's the truth of it. So it doesn't quite work. You just don't feel he doesn't look like he should be scared, and he is. They lead into the original story quite a bit in this, much more than say the Disney animated version, where the Headless Horseman is a real and scary thing. In this one, it's clearly, and it's kind of intimated in the story. It's not explicit in the original story, but it's intimated that Bron Bones had something to do with the Headless Horseman rather than him being a real thing. In fact, quite strongly in the original written story. Not so much in some versions to see. For example, Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow is definitely the Hessian is a real character. You know, a headless Hessian mercenary who died nearby. And Sleepy Hollow, as in the Tower, is written as a slightly spooky place. But though Ichabod, while he's a school teacher and some of the women like him, he's very nervy. He doesn't want to go out at Halloween, but Katrina invites him to a dance at Halloween, and so he feels he needs to. And he thinks he's doing well with Katrina, but she's kind of playing him, which is a bit of a shame. Charles Durning's kind of interesting. He is a narrator, but he's also involved in the action. For example, he drops the hint that Ichabod's a coward, when Bron Bones is planning how to sort of get Katrina back, and that hatches this whole plan. And it clearly is Bron Bones in this story as the Headless Horseman. No, there is a twist in the tale. It's kind of lightweight and fun. It's a kid's thing, so you got to sort of treat it in that vein. And it was okay. It is on YouTube, this one. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube. I think on YouTube it's like 50 odd minutes. And honestly, the quality on YouTube is about as good as you get anyway, because the videotape is not a great quality. So interesting. Now, interestingly, Shelley Duvall went on to produce another series called Nightmare Classics, in which there were only 4, but I have actually covered one of them on a previous episode. On Anthologic 30, I covered episode 1 of that series with Turn of the Screw. So I have already kind of covered that bit. I've not got much more to say about it. I don't think I'll be going to watch any others. I'm kind of intrigued to watch, for example, the Michael York one with Ponce de Leon, and possibly the John Henry one with Danny Glover. And I saw some clips of that one. It looked pretty good. It looked like he was doing a good job, Danny Glover. Now, he looks a lot younger, obviously, than we're often used to him, but it was kind of cool. Dr. Ruth Westenheimer in the Ponce de Leon one is just weird. Might like to see how they work that in, actually. But and it was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Awards, this one, so it had some weight. It ran on Showtime originally and on the Disney Channel, so that's the kind of level it's at. And it's considered a comedy drama. Okay, it was fine. I'm not going to really say more than that. Tall Tales and Legends, as I say, from 1985 to 1987. Okay, that's it for this one. But before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to